Yo, what is going on, guys? SCJ here, back with another video for the first time in a while. And I think a big reason for that has to kind of do with the offseason, and really the offseason that the Nets have had, because I initially planned on making a video talking about the free agents that I felt the Nets should target, but then the Kyrie situation happened, and then finally, once that got settled, KD requested a trade 3 days later, which I'm sure everybody knows about. I then kind of shifted my plans to saying, okay, once the trade goes through, I'll break down the players and or draft picks the Nets receive back and make my video about that. But then Durant rescinded the trade request, ironically enough, on Kobe Bryant's birthday, which kind of felt calculated and something he wanted to do, as we know that Kobe did that in the past in terms of rescinding his trade request back when he was looking to possibly get traded to the Chicago Bulls or whoever back in 07, 08, whatever. But then everything kind of initially became, okay, who does this team then sign and what do they do going forward? Because while they did have some free agents that they signed and made a move in the beginning of the offseason for Royce O'Neal, it felt more so like this roster just had so many holes that they need to fill, and it still kind of feels like that to this day, and the season is beginning this week, so it's a little bit of a crazy situation that the Nets are going through right now, in my opinion. In terms of what we've seen out of this group, it felt like if the first two preseason games were any indication of the type of basketball the Nets were going to play this season or are going to play this season, then it's going to be a long season for them. But then we saw the way that the Nets played in their final two preseason games, and it makes you think, okay, this team should be a middle of the way or bottom half playoff team and fall into one of the 4, 5, or 6 seeds in the East. I think a big thing to remember, though, is that this is a completely new group of guys playing together, and I think that it's going to take time for everybody to get used to one another. And I do also know that the Nets need to make some moves or maybe make a trade or look to the buyout market when that time comes to strike in one of those markets once you get to the months of February, March, and April. I think if we're to look at the first two regular season games that the Nets' big three of Harden, Kyrie, and KD played together, they were extremely underwhelming and the team looked terrible. So luckily the Nets were able to get the big three of Kyrie, KD, and Simmons on the floor together for a couple times during the preseason together, but hopefully the initial hiccups that they got are now out of the way. But there's still a long way to go with these three guys playing together, and I think being able to play with one another is going to be a task that they're going to have to try to fill out with the rest of the roster and stuff like that, which as of right now is not looking great in terms of injuries and things as such. I think one of the most important things that the Nets need to do is make sure they can get Joe Harris and Seth Curry back up on the floor ASAP, because you need a lineup of shooters out there if you're running with Ben Simmons. While Giannis has improved his jumper, the reason the Bucks are so scary, in my opinion, is obviously because we're talking about Giannis, who I think is the best player in the league currently, and he's such a bully. But every lineup that the Bucks run out there typically has 4 shooters on the floor next to Giannis, whether they have Holiday, Middleton, Allen, Matthews, Lopez, Portis, etc. They always have shooters surrounding Giannis and helping to spread the floor. And I think the Nets got to do whatever they can to try and get a stretch 5 or some kind of help to the point where they can run Simmons out there with 4 shooters and not have Simmons at the center position. Simmons is nowhere close to Giannis in my opinion and never will be, but if you're running Simmons out there with KD and Kyrie and Simmons is your only non-shooter, then I don't think you need Simmons to be like Giannis. I will say I have liked the types of plays that the Nets have ran out there with Simmons, even without Harris and Curry in their final 2 preseason games, like this play right here where the Bucks sagged off of Simmons, or some of the ways that they've really made an effort to move the ball around and have good ball movement in their final 2 preseason games against the Bucks and the Timberwolves. And I think this team has showed a lot of signs that they can really be a team that sits somewhere from the top 15 to top 10 in terms of their defensive ability, which is a positive for them, speaking of how bad their defense has been in the last couple seasons. I think the way they're able to switch and show multiple different defensive looks on the same possession many different times in their final 2 preseason games, when they had the lineup of Simmons, Irving, O'Neal, Durant, and Claxton out there, are only positives, and kind of shows that those are the 5 guys that the Nets need to be starters, at least at the beginning of the season, in my opinion. Also, I did love Ben Simmons' work on Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Nets' 3rd preseason game, which happened last week, as Giannis went 6 for 21 from the field in that game. And also having Simmons, or just a player on Simmons' level, is something that the Nets haven't had since the 21st century began in 2000, or hell, maybe even ever. Now, in terms of the standings, this was my guesstimate that I did quickly the other day when I was talking to someone about how I think the East stacks up. And I think that these 8 teams could be shifted around or flipped around in so many different ways. But the 8 teams that I have in my top 8 are the teams who I think will make the playoffs this season, or just the 8 teams who I think will have the best shot to do so. I could see Philly grabbing the 1st seed, even though I have them as the 2 seed here, especially because we know that Middleton won't start the season with the Bucks. And also, there's so much we don't know about the rest of the East. We don't know how the Celtics will be with their injuries that they're dealing with, especially the injury to Robert Williams and coaching turmoil that they have going on right now. We don't know how the new look Nets will look, how the Cavs will look with Donovan Mitchell and how they'll stack up in the East, and also how much of a difference DeJounte Murray will have in Atlanta. So there's a lot of question marks in the East, like I said. But I do think that these will be the 8 teams that have the best chance of making the Eastern Conference playoffs this season. Back to the Nets, though, in terms of the amount of games or amount of wins I could see them getting, I could see the Nets getting about 45 right now, right on the dot I'll go with, and I don't think they'll get exactly 45, but I do think that's the best estimate I could do of about where they'll be. I think somewhere in that 40 to 50 win range is the most realistic as of right now for them, and I could see it being as low as 42 or as high as 47 or 48 wins as of right now, but this roster has the potential. The only issue is as someone who's rooted for this team for well over 2 decades, it feels like there's always something that goes wrong or goes against the Nets. And with the Nets dealing with multiple injuries already before the season has even started, it feels like they're starting off on a bad foot. Overall, I'm going to try my best to stay positive with this team, though, to the best of my ability, because like I said, it always feels like something goes wrong with the Nets. But 2 years ago, the team ended the season with a roster that looked nothing like the one that they started the season with, and they were able to acquire the 2 biggest players on the buyout market in Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. So there's a lot that could happen between game 81 and 82, whether it's positive or negative. And I think the biggest thing is going to be that they're going to need to click and sacrifice whatever is necessary in order to become a championship contender, as well as a destination for buyout market or trade market players when the calendar year flips to 2023 and the NBA enters its second half of the season. All in all, though, my guesstimation for where the Nets end up is one of the 4 through 6 seeds, and I think they'll end up with 42 to 47 wins, like I said. But if you want the hard numbers, then I'd have to say lock me in with the Nets getting the 5th seed in the 2023 NBA playoffs and lock them in as a 45-win team for the 22 to 23 NBA season as well. There's a lot of question marks around this Brooklyn Nets team this season, and I don't think anybody would deny that. But this is the team that seems like they want to win, and as much as it might be awkward around who wants to be there and who doesn't, it seems like winning basketball games can solve everything and unite a basketball team regardless. And this comment right here, or comments like this one from Patty Mills, makes me feel like this team is bonding together off the court, and it seems like every member of the big 3, Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons, all have chips on their shoulders and want to win. While I personally believe the Milwaukee Bucks will be the team that's crowned the 2023 NBA champions as long as they can stay healthy throughout the playoffs, the NBA has become a league over the last couple seasons where the unexpected has happened, so I think there's truly no telling you what could happen or what will happen by the end of the season. While the games don't count or matter whatsoever, the Nets started the preseason looking terrible and finished it on a positive note, which is a nice thing to see, because if you're rooting for the Nets or you're just a Nets fan in general, it's important to remember that the Bucks went 0-4 in the preseason during the 2020-21 season before winning the NBA title. And while I'm pretty sure the Bucks were leading at the end of the first half in all 4 of those games, which is pretty much the point where the starters exit the game, they still lost all 4 of those games. All in all, though, I think this is the most interesting season that the Nets have had as a team in a while, as the expectations are low heading into the season for them, but if they can click and put it all together while also making some roster changes, this team can potentially win the East. But they got a lot of work to do in order to get there first, and in order to reach that point, I think they're going to need to make some roster changes as well, and it's going to be difficult to beat the Milwaukee Bucks in a 7-game series if you're the Nets. All in all, there's a lot to be questioned with the Nets this season. I don't think anybody knows where this season will go for the Nets, but I do want to know what you guys think about this Nets team, any of their players, or anything we talked about in this video down below in the comment section. If you like this video and you want to see more Nets content or just NBA content in general, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of that. And I do want to thank you guys for watching, as the last video I made was prior to the NBA Finals even beginning, and then we've had so much turmoil and stuff like that with the Nets and really just the NBA in general during the offseason that I was trying to figure out what to make a video on. But with the NBA season back, you can expect a lot more content from me, whether it be the Nets primarily or just the NBA, whatever. Definitely want to get into doing more Nets related content with how much drama has been surrounding this team and will surround this team going forward. But like I said, NBA content will always be on this channel regardless. Anyway, guys, I do want to thank you guys for watching once again, and I know this video is a bit all over the place, but this is really just because I'm kind of talking off the top of my head and really no script, no nothing. I just wanted to talk about the Nets, and I think with something like this, I haven't made a video in a little bit of time, so I'm going to come in a little offbeat, a little flustered. But once again, thank you guys for watching. I'm SCJ, and I am out. Peace.